They've got Imogen Massey, Sarah Olim, they've got Laura Vinopia. There's also got the Belgian Amelia Van Hove and Amelia Velter. 5 riders, 5 different nationalities. Then we head to Ionian, who we know very, very well, Matt. They've won.
Dus zo net werden onze rensters voorgesteld. Je ziet het daar, Abu Synergy, eerste ploeg in de lijst. Eventjes overlopen. Voor zover dat we al een beetje kennis hebben met de dames, want het is natuurlijk een nieuw team. Imogen Massey, triatlete. Dus die heeft wel wat inhoud. Kan wel van pas komen op zo'n Alpen, maar toch goed moet pacen. Is toch een inspanning, denk ik, voor de dames vandaag van een 45 à 50 minuten. We hebben Sarah Olimp, ken ik iets minder. Laura Van Jompona, die kennen we natuurlijk van Lennart Teugels, de vriendin. Amelia Van Hoven, meestal ook een vaste waarde in het damesteam van de nationale selectie. En Emilia Welte, daar zet ik vandaag mijn geld op. Heel goed bergop. Wel vorige week niet van start gegaan met ons, omdat ze toen nog van COVID aan het herstellen was. Maar dat zou ondertussen achter de rug moeten zijn. Dus ja, daar verwacht ik toch wel iets van. Een top 10 plaats zou mooi zijn. We gaan dan eventjes ZWIFT laten verder doen, het verloop van de andere vrouwen. En dan kom ik zo dadelijk nog eventjes terug.
Of course, will suit Alice Lethbridge the most. Hexagon, another new squad for the 2023-2024 season. International flavour there with a French heart, Sandrine Etienne, Laurence Mottas. Watch out for those riders. Movistar, again, a world tour team, have an esports team as well. They finished a very strong 4th last year, but that's a real Swedish flavour. But some of the strongest riders out there, as we all know, they perform very well, and they have one of the most well-drilled teams out there. So tactically, they're a team to look to. Next, last season, of course, well, they went around. We've had them in various iterations in the past, but they're a new squad for this particular season. Liz Van Holuing, I think, is the rider that's outstanding for them, especially on a circuit like this.
Move on to Prix Race Without Borders. They've got Northrop, who will be leading their team, the American. Another new team, Sean Gallagher, the sports director, and Julie Abrahamson within their squad. Rocco Corba Collective, of course, the team that is owned and led by Ashley Mullman-Passio, the former esports world champion who won that rainbow jersey on Zwift. They've got Edward Green as their sports director. 5 riders, 2 from South Africa, Courtney Webb and Jules Cass, who will be leading that squad. Saris, 6th last year. They've got Jen Reel in the virtual team car, Gabriela Guerra. She had a great race last week, so I'm really curious to see how the Brazilian rider gets on this evening. Team Castelli, another new team within this Grand Prix. They've got Roberta Bassoni, Selene Columbi, Sophie Giovanni, Lucy Lisco and Elisabetta Rico within that squad. And Celine Columbi will be one of their big riders to watch. She's an excellent climber, the Italian.
Yeah, let's see what impression they can make in their first season. Well, Team Swedish Zwifters, they don't really need too much of an introduction, but I'll introduce them anyway. They are stalwarts of the scene, came through the community races of Tour, of course. Slightly different feel to the team that we've got here, but Anna Imbring, I think, will be one of their main protagonists. She likes the climbs as well, and I definitely think they'll be looking to improve on the 7th place last season. Toyota Elite, 8th place last year, with Charlotte Colclough, Lucy Harris, Linda Klein, Amelia Mitchell and Natalie Stevenson. Charlotte Colclough, without a shadow of a doubt, should do well today, one would imagine. 2024, well, they've been around for a very long time indeed. They know how to race on esports. Emily Elric, Kristin Kulczynski, arguably the biggest superstar, I think, in esports racing without a shadow of a doubt. Lauren Quinones is there and Melissa Rollins, but if Kristin Kulczynski could have designed a course on Zwift, it's this one. Do watch out for the American superstar. And finally, to finish our list of riders of the 16 teams, we've got Wahoo Lacole, the runners-up last year. Of course, they'll be looking for the win, and they have a very good team. Watch out for Lizzie Brooke, especially on a course like this. And Laura Simnech as well is very, very strong. So that's all of the riders. I hope that has whetted your appetite. Next up is the course itself. It's 17.3 kilometers long. The climb itself is 12.22 kilometers in length. 8.5% averages, and pretty much meter for meter, gradient for gradient, matches that of outdoors. The fastest time on Zwift, on Strava, a woman has ever climbed this hill, this mountain, should I say, 35 minutes 18. That's a bit of a benchmark, but this, of course, is a completely different format. It is a points race. We'll see how they go. 30 seconds to go. They'll be in the pens warming up. I can really sense this anticipation building now, Hannah. I wonder how they're going to play this one.
Absolutely, and I think we'll have some riders who, coming into this, will be feeling quite nervous, but with 10 seconds to go, they'll warm up well underway and just getting themselves prepared for that first intermediate sprint that will come at 6.5 kilometers.
So, we shall be looking in the pens very shortly. Warm-up, very, very important indeed. Just a reminder of the sprint locations where those intermediate points are offered for the first 5 riders to cross the line. The first one comes at 6.5 kilometres in. That's 10.8 kilometres to go. The second one at 9.1 Ks, and there we are. Finally, we have eyes on this beautiful multicoloured field. Again, my first go at commentating this particular season. And we have an early attacker. It's Svartstrom just moving off the front here, just out of the pens here. And then we've got a bit of a gently undulating run into the bottom of the climb. So really, when you look at the dynamics of this race and the way this race unfolds, the amount of time spent on the climb, there's not a lot of opportunity, Hannah, to rest up. So pack dynamics here, sitting in the field, watching and waiting, actually quite important in the very early stages of this particular course.
It's very, very important, Matt, and I think having that patience to not want to use too much too soon and trying to hold something back. And as I said before, the climbers will be licking their lips at the prospect of being able to race such a pure out-and-out race for them, a Grand Prix for them. And I don't remember the last time that we had such a race where you have a mountain. I think probably Continental Qualifiers last year where it really suited those pure climbers. And so for those who know they can thrive in round 2 here at this Grand Prix, it's being able to hold something back, wait, and then unleash your power and I guess your winning way in which you can try and win tonight. I mean, all the teams, Matt, will have come into this with a strategy of how they want to try and come out on top, but putting that into practice on such a demanding mountain is another thing.
It certainly is, especially with the amount of points on offer. Remember, this is a points race. That, of course, there's the prestige of winning the round outright, but this is about finding out who the best team on Zwift is. It is the Zwift Grand Prix. So, and there could be riders that.
Ondertussen zitten we in de afdaling op weg naar de Alp. Nog even meegeven ook dat het niet enkel de Alp op zich is, maar dat er onderweg ook nog 3 tussensprints liggen. Waar punten te verdienen vallen. De eerste 3, als ik het goed heb. 150 voor de eerste, dan denk ik 75 voor de tweede. De derde weet ik niet echt van buiten. Iemand die punten neemt onderweg. En de klim begint op 5,1 kilometer, denk ik. De eerste sprint is op 6,5. Dus dat is als we ongeveer een dikke kilometer aan het klimmen zijn. Iemand die punten neemt, dus een van de 3, mag daarna op het gemakje verder. Dat maakt niet zoveel uit. Wie geen punten neemt, dus dat is dan het overmeerderheid van het deelnemerspak, moet op 5 minuten van de overwinnaar zijn. Ben je langer als, is de afstand groter dan 5 minuten met de overwinnaar en jezelf, dan krijg je boven geen punten. Alle anderen die binnen de 5 minuten boven komen, krijgen wel punten. Dus dat is toch nog redelijk belangrijk. Wat ga je doen? Ga je sprinten met de kans dat je vierde wordt, geen punten pakt en dan toch nog naar boven moet? Waarschijnlijk dan niet binnen die 5 minuten marge blijft en daardoor geen punten scoort. Of ga je gewoon zeggen, ik pace mezelf, ik ga enkel voor boven, voor de uitslag en voor wel binnen die 5 minuten te blijven van de overwinnaar. Het zal allemaal meespelen, we gaan dat zien. Ik denk in ons geval misschien enkel Laura, dat die misschien voor de eerste sprint zou durven gaan. Ze heeft de snelheid daarvoor. Het is natuurlijk altijd een beetje dubbel. 3 plekjes. Als je vierde wordt of vijfde, dan heb je die inspanning gedaan en dan kan je daar niet meer van bekomen. We gaan het zien. We gaan langzaam maar zeker aan de Alp komen. Nog een 2-tal kilometer. Ik geef het woord terug aan de collega's.
That she was putting out, just floating at around 200 watts, saving that energy for the climb here. But that was quite an interesting little move. But teams, as we were starting to allude to, Hannah, teams will have had plans. There will be riders instructed to go early on. But if they do go early on, full on for the points, the first part, I don't think they're going to be able to sustain the effort over the top, although we might see a few surprises. Once you get into your rhythm on this climb, it's very, very difficult to peg it back because you have to put yourself into the red. So I am intrigued to see how riders race this one because we've never seen this format before. But unlike riding on the flat where you can surf the wheels a little bit, use the slipstream, it's all about gravity here. So you've got to have the legs to back the plan up.
And I think it's having the physical ability to be able to back it up too, Matt. And I think it's also which attacks, when you see any attacks go up the road, which attacks can you let go and which do you immediately need to try and bring back, knowing that those riders have got maybe a handful of seconds and you know that they're so strong that they'll be able to continue to build on the lead that they have. So I think in general, of all the 80 riders here in the 16 teams, they've got to play it very, very careful and make sure that they don't allow a rider and kind of almost rest on the laurels, letting riders...
We gaan hier door het groene gordijn. Dat wil zeggen dat de klimmer aankomt. Tot nu toe het hele pak samen. Maar dat gaat zo meteen ginder in de linkse bocht wel gaan beginnen veranderen. Onze rensters kunt u herkennen aan het azuurblauwe, donkerblauwe shirt. Maar misschien ook vooral aan de blauwe tronfietsen waar ze normaal allemaal op rijden met de lichtblauwe banden. Dan zouden ze goed zichtbaar moeten zijn. Ik ben zelf even benieuwd. Ik ga er vanaf brengen, maar zoals gezegd, ik schuif vooral Emilia Welte naar voren bij ons. Ik ken ze natuurlijk nog niet zo goed allemaal. Dat moet nog komen. In ieder geval, de dames waren vorige week nogal ongelukkig, werden laatste. Dat had ook zomaar even anders kunnen zijn, want we eindigden op een zucht van 4 puntjes toen. Maar laat ons stellen dat we vandaag toch gaan proberen beter te doen. En hopelijk kunnen ze ongeveer half het pak eindigen. Dat zou mooi zijn. Like 6 tot 8 of zoiets. Alles dat beter is meegenomen. We zijn eraan begonnen. Nog 12 kilometer. Enkel bergop tot boven op de Alp.
Deep slopes on the lower parts of the climb. Some gaps are starting to open up.
They are, and you can just see last week's, for me, one of the standout riders, Gabriela Guerra, the Brazilian rider, just trying to bridge across, sensing the danger, the fact that Ionian are applying the pressure at the front. There's Lizzie Brooke to the English woman from Wahoo Cole, who's moving up, likewise with Coalition, with a couple of riders up towards the front. But this is a move that's starting to do some damage, and we're starting to see some big gaps, and already we're seeing riders who are dropped that could be quite a surprise. You find yourself in this position now, Matt, and it's incredibly difficult to try and bring yourself back up there. Sudström, the Swedish rider from Movistar, who's just sitting comfortably in the wheels at the moment. There's Sandrine Etienne, who finished just off the podium in the Esports World Championships earlier on this year, the French woman.
Brooke, as you say, is there as well. As you see, Etienne is a very good rider. Of course, the World Championships, slightly different format. Really enjoyed that one. These are smaller races, people riding the long game, elimination. But this is all about your ability to climb and your ability to suffer. Look at the numbers here from Gabriela Guerra. 328 watts. She's just hovering just under 6 watts a kilo. 11.8 k's to go. We've got 1 kilometre till the first intermediate sprint, where there'll be 150 points on offer. Now this is where a few riders are going to have to, if they want to finish within 7 minutes, I mean all of the riders in this invite-only Grand Prix series are classy bike riders. We have to remember that. And then on top of that, all of the teams would have picked riders that this course would have suited. So I'm not saying everybody's a pure climber, but of all the riders we've got here, teams need to field riders that can actually get up this climate pretty effectively. They would have ridden it on multiple occasions. We have had races up here in the past, never in this points race format. So Rod would just be making sure.
Momenteel hebben zich een 12-tal rensters wat afgescheiden. Maar dat wil nog niet altijd veel zeggen. Die toch wel serieuze waardes van 5,5 tot 6 watt per kilo. Voor vele dames gaat dat misschien halverwege toch beginnen doorwegen. Dus wie vergalopeert en wie niet, dat gaan we moeten afwachten.
Already at 15 seconds of a deficit to this group, and this is a very select group that's going clear. You mentioned Charlotte Colclough, one to watch out for, and she got herself right into the slipstream, into that little move, just been tailed off ever so slightly. She's trailing at 5 seconds, but attempting to claw her way back on.
No, she's a rider that knows how to ride at a tempo, and also you can ride this out, but you can ride it almost like a negative split, not panic, pick up a little bit later on. Some riders like to ride hard early on.
Zometeen gaan we de eerste sprint gaan zien. Normaal staat die aangegeven met een banner en een kudos in het midden op de baan. Tempo gaat omhoog, dus we gaan er aan zijn. Ja, hier is de eerste sprint dus. Bij het uitkomen van de tunnel. Altijd goed om te zien dat we weten wat onze mannen kunnen doen en waar de tussensprints liggen. Kunnen we ze daar een handje helpen. Ondertussen beginnen de gaten toch al groter te worden. Die top 12 is al mooi uit elkaar gevallen. Ik zie al 22 seconden tussen 1 en 12. En zoals gezegd, bovenop de top. 5 minuten mag het verschil maar zijn. Dus veel rensters gaan zich moeten reppen, denk ik. Het zou mooi zijn moest ZWIFT ook eens naar achter gaan. Altijd leuk als je zo op die 5 minuten limiet zit en dan kijkt. Een beetje zoals we de fans kennen. Zou het leuk zijn dat ze achteraan een fans zetten. Ondertussen ga ik zelf eens kijken waar Emilia Welte ergens hangt. Momenteel positie 52 voor Emilia Welte. Dus dat is toch een beetje ontgoocheld. Natuurlijk, zoals aangehaald, heeft zij ook COVID gehad. Dus kijken, Imogen Massi, plek 43. Dus iets voor Emilia. Even kijken hoe Laura het aan het doen is. Laura plek 65. We zijn met 106 rensters gestart. Dus dat is zeker nog niet slecht. Eigen tempo rijden zou ik zeggen ook. Dan kijken naar Salah Olayb. Plek 66, dus die hangt, die hangt samen met Laura. Die rijden bijna samen. 3 secondjes tussen. Eens kijken, Amelia van Hoven. Amelia van Hoven, momenteel plek 26 in een groepje van 5. Dus die is goed bezig. Momenteel onze eerste renster, Amelia. Emilia en Amelia. Ja, altijd een beetje oppassen met die twee namen. Er zit ongeveer maar een goede 100 meter tussen. Dus dat zijn ongeveer 25 rensters die op 100 meter rijden. Eén lang sliert.
The gradient is pretty much bang on, and it is corner by corner. And it is only a pure coincidence as we see Etienne just moving clear now on the front. It's not by coincidence, well, it is a coincidence, should I say, that we had the route announcement of the Tour de France Femmes avec ZWIFT, and the final stage is up the Alpe d'Huez.
It is, and that was only announced yesterday, and like you say, just by coincidence, one day later, we're having the second round of the ZWIFT Grand Prix on the very climb that it is built upon. So it's very interesting, very, very exciting, and that Tour de France Femmes avec ZWIFT will culminate at the Alpe d'Huez. I'm going to say Alpe d'Huez then, but it will be the Alpe d'Huez next year.
Maybe one day we'll have a virtual stage. I'm sure Eric Min would be quite excited about that one. But well, some little splits happening now. Katie Hill was leading at the front there. She still is for the Ionian. Krista Kulczynski not too far. In fact, they're just spread across the road here. But it looks like, well, there we go. Lucy Harris has just caught up to this little group here. So good bit of ride. And the steepest part of the climb has done and dusted. It's an average gradient of 8.5%, Hannah. But there are some sections on this climb, if you're smart, where it actually eases ever so slightly. And there is an opportunity to get your breath, reconfigure, and get that little bit of slipstreaming as well. So if you are a lighter rider and you want to make your move, generally it's on the steeper parts, because you can sit on the wheels when the gradient gets between under 5 or 6%.
It's very much changed as well, hasn't it, now that we've started to see such a select group of riders who have formed. Weissman and Paul are trying to chase the four who are currently leading now. But it all comes to, where do you want to use your power? Do you want to try and save something on those parts where you can get a little bit of respite and recovery? Or do you want to try and put the pressure on to those who will be already suffering and maybe put themselves into that red zone, Matt? And whether you want to take that risk, take that gamble. Weissman and Paul making good inroads. And of course, they've got that carrot to chase. They've got that motivation to try and bring themselves back into the frame of things. Saris with one rider, Coalition with another.
Yeah, the teams are quite reasonably spread. Got, as you say, a couple from Ionian, and Verhaeren and Hill. Saris have got a couple there, Weissman and Guerra. And we've got Paul on her own from Coalition, of course, Krista Kulczynski from the newly named Virginia's Blue Ridge 2024 team. There's the gap between our leaders. Well, this is a little bit further down now, as we see the French woman just rolling past it. That's Motas from the Hexagon team. She's currently sitting in 12th place as we get back to this little mid-group. There's still a couple of seconds behind. Nevin has joined this group as well. And this is your little set of chasers. Hill, Kulczynski, Etienne and Guerra and Paul are up the road, and this is a group number 2 on the road, but it's still certainly, well, there's a long way to go still, and certainly not all over yet as riders settle into that rhythm. And some riders might have had a plan just to go all in on the second half, others to go early, but right now we are seeing some enormous gaps opening up as we look at a group a little bit further down the climb now.
You mentioned, Matt, the time of the Queen of the Mountain on Strava here on the Alpe d'Huez, 35 minutes and 18 seconds. And you would expect that was at a very controlled linear effort where the holder of that Queen of the Mountain was able to hold and sustain that power for that period of time and that duration. Whereas what we're seeing here is a very different prospect for the
ZWIFT moet toch wel een beetje leren hoe dat ze wedstrijden in beeld brengen. Momenteel krijgen we enkel de top 5 zowat te zien. Jammer dat ze niet af en toe eens teruggaan. Een beetje de hele wedstrijd laten zien. Dan gaan wij dat maar doen. Hier zien we Amelia van Hoven. Momenteel plek 27 in een groepje. Daarvoor ziet u er ook nog rijden, dus u ziet dat het nog redelijk dicht op elkaar ligt daar een beetje. En het is nog wel even. Ondertussen 8,7 kilometer gedaan. Blijft toch mooi rond die plek 25 zitten. Met optie op plek 20. Gaan we eventjes kijken naar hoe Emilia ondertussen doet. Ja, let niet op de groene truitjes. Die zijn nog niet in orde. Dat zou eind van de maand zou ze het goede truitje moeten ontvangen. Dus wij zien groene truitjes. Op Zwift Stream ziet u de originele goede truitjes. Die zijn we bij Emilia Welte. Ook nog altijd rond plek 53, zoals daar straks. 8,6 kilometer. Ongeveer halverwege. Lijkt precies toch wel het een beetje te vertapperen nu. Langzaam maar zeker opschuiven. Wie weet kan nog naar plek 30 ergens gaan. Is nog wel even. We kijken naar Laura. Ook nog altijd rond die plek 60 ergens. Daar zat ze er straks ook al, dus die is een goed vast tempo aan het rijden. We zijn hier met 3 samen. En daar ziet u net rond de bocht ook nog Sarah komen, de Amerikaanse van ons team. Net achter Laura. Gaan er even bij. Hier ziet u ze. Daar ziet u links Laura. Dus die blijven mooi samen. En dan enkel nog Imogen, denk ik. De Britse, die zit op plek 43, dus die zit daar nog een beetje tussen. Dus momenteel onze 5 dames binnen de top 60. We zijn er nog niet. Eventjes terug over naar de front van de wedstrijd.
in on 125 points. Then we've got a drop of over to 75 points to Toyota Elite E-Cycling. Wahoo Nicole on 50. Movistar team and Sarah Snowpins joint with 40 points, with Coalition Alpha and Virginia's Blue Ridge both on 35 points.
Well, one more intermediate sprint to go, and that comes, there's quite a big gap till we get to that one. That comes with about 2 kilometers to go before the finish. That comes 15 Ks in. Remember, the total race distance today is 17.3 Ks, as Katie Hill just sits on the wheel there for Ionian of Christian Kuczynski, continuing to ride, no doubt, out of the saddle. Her avatar's out of the saddle, and generally speaking, Christian Kuczynski does ride out of the saddle a lot. She has developed this quite unique style. She is so strong and has improved, and as you were just talking about, it's quite fascinating. She did actually, I think it was about a year ago now, maybe a little bit less, she sent me a message to say she'd been out for the very first time on a road bike and was out on the roads and thoroughly enjoying it. So just think about the importance of that in terms of what Zwift is offering people. It really is absolutely fantastic. As we look at Sandrine Etienne, the French woman, still out in front, and she has got quite a significant lead now. She's built a lead, whilst we've been talking about the points and the characteristics of other riders, a lead of over 20 seconds. You said it was a bold move, Hannah. 23 seconds is a pretty comfortable lead. Still a lot of this Alpe to Zwift to go, but that is a commanding lead.
She's even been able to hold on to that lead of 23 seconds despite the accelerations towards that second intermediate sprint, Matt. And so that in itself is incredibly impressive, and the way she's holding her power so well and holding that at 5.4 watts per kilogram. Her heart rate at 176 beats per minute, just to give you some indication of just how hard Sandrine Etienne is having to work here to try and maintain this gap. But it's a bold move, but it's also where do the chasers try and make the move to make some inroads to Etienne? And also, do they want to? Do they want to try and risk going so deep into that red zone, into such a deficit where in the end they end up not scoring the points that they were hoping for, and it actually works into the favour of the other riders who are within that group. So perhaps now we might have a stalemate in that chasing group that is currently being led with Katie Hill, Guerra, Harris, Kulczynski. Paul a little bit further behind, only a handful of seconds between the German rider of Coalition Alpha and Weissman of Saris Nopins. Here they are, they just round the left-hand hairpin. Motas just sitting on the back of that duo. There she is, the French woman.
Yeah, they're about 10 to 1. The Motas is about 10 seconds behind. So not all over yet, so all to play for in the top 10. Big points on offer, of course, as the points slide down. Remember, the first 80 riders will score. Everybody will score as long as they finish within 7 minutes of the race winner. And at the moment, with a commanding lead, is Sandrine Etienne of the Hexagoni team. She's absolutely flying. Katie Hill, as you can see, just moving through to the front. And Gabriela Guerra of Brazil, they're in third place. Lucy Harris not too far behind. And Kristen Kulczynski. We're looking a little bit further down the mountain now. And a little group containing a teammate of Kristen Kulczynski, Elric of Virginia's Blue Ridge. They're over a minute behind now. But the altitude, well, there's no altitude, of course, in the virtual game, but you can almost get a sense of the cooling air here as we're moving in through to the snow line. The environment around completely starting to change here. And as we look a little bit further down the mountain at a big acceleration in this second group, a little bit further down, starting to splinter now.
You say that there's no altitude in terms of IRL in real life for the riders here, but they do have 1,052 meters of elevation to climb. And when you say that they have that amount, just over a kilometer of climbing within 17.3 kilometers, it really is a beast, isn't it?
That certainly is. Looking at some various riders spread all over this mountainside now. Top 20 riders split over 1 minute and 24 in position number 20. It's Shear of the Coalition Alpha team. Looking at Alice Lethbridge here. She's a little bit further down. Lethbridge, in fact, is outside of the top 10, so not having the greatest of days today, but a very talented rider. Again, sometimes if you're not riding at 100%, Hannah, you can sit in the wheels, you can float you around and think about the way you ride, really conserve your energy. But save for the opening 5Ks when you are sat in the relative safety of the peloton, this climb just takes no prisoners at all. You are essentially on your own, and you've just got the ride to ride at the pace that your body will allow.
It really exposes you as well, doesn't it? Because if you are on a bad day, or perhaps something in terms of the plan, the strategy, the tactic didn't go the way you were hoping, there's no way to try and rectify any mistake at all. But I think when you take a look at Coalition Alpha, for example, within the top 20 at the moment, they've got 4 riders of their 5 who are sitting in the top 20. The fourth of those is Shear. She's at 1 minute and 24 seconds at the moment. So in terms of point scoring, despite not having a rider who is in that leading group currently, they're still in a very, very strong position. Likewise with Ionian, they've got 3 riders within the top 20. Saris with 2 riders of Guerra and Weissman. So actually, in terms of the point scoring come the finish, as long as they finish within that 7-minute marker, they're putting themselves right up there into a position where they could challenge for the overall team win tonight.
No, definitely. It's all about grouping, isn't it? Of course, going for the intermediate points. There's a lot of points on offer, but if you can stick together and try and ensure that your riders finish as highly up as possible, that's definitely the way to play it. But of course, on a course like this, that is easier said than done. We more see that sort of tactic employed on the flatter circuits, keeping riders in little groups, consistently scoring points. But these are the group of riders who are just out in front. Hill looking good. Lucy Harris not too far away. Gabriela Guerra also there too. And Kristen Kulczynski keeping it nice and patient. But Sandrine Etienne is the rider still out in front with what is a commanding lead. So Hill setting the tempo from this little chasing group, and out in front with a lot of tarmac between her and the chasing runners is Sandrine Etienne.
De Française heeft een stevig tempo. Niks niet meer te zien in de achtergrond. Ik ga ervan uit dat hij niet meer gaat stilvallen en dat hij voor de punten onderweg nog gaat die er nog liggen en voor de overwinning. Dus een mooie prestatie van Hexagon, de Fransen. Ondertussen heb ik ook nog een oogje gehouden op onze dames en die blijven allemaal ongeveer even goed doen. Emilia, die zat nog altijd rond plek 20. Ja, 22ste nog altijd. Met voor haar nog altijd enkele renners. Dus Emilia goed doordoet, dan zit een mooie top 20 notering daar wel in. Die net voor haar 3 rensters. Dan zagen we Sarah en Laura ook nog altijd in mekaars buurt. 60 en 62. Dus checken waar Emilia Welte zit. Ja, die blijft een beetje hangen op plek 53. Zit ook helemaal alleen. Niemand voor haar, niemand achter haar. Imogen Massey. Ook nog altijd plek 43. Dus die is ook een beetje standvastig. Er is wel nog enorm veel rensters net voor haar. En ook net achter haar, dus dat is wel een vrij grote groep van, ik schat toch wel een 15-tal. Op ongeveer een 200-300 meter van elkaar allemaal. Die zit, laat ons zeggen, in het pak. En dan nog eventjes dubbelchecken met Laura en met Sarah. Laura plek 65 momenteel. Een beetje opgeschoven, die zit op 58. Ondertussen zijn de dames een dik half uur onderweg. Dus nu wordt het ook afwachten wat de tijd van de winnares gaat zijn boven.
Now, and she appears now to be making some sort of move. 4.8 k's to go, and you might think with a rider on the flat with a 40-second lead that's going to be hard to close, but of course we're going to be on the mountain for a good few minutes yet. It's not going to be 6 minutes like on the flat. This is the best part of 10 or 15 minutes of racing still to go because the climb is so brutal. And as you can see, there's a bit of a wind blowing today. It's blowing the snow across the road out onto the plains below here in the Alps. Kulczynski trying to make a move, and the gap is starting to come down now. This isn't over yet. Sandrine Etienne is riding well, but Kulczynski has slashed the gap down to 36 seconds now, Hannah.
10 seconds within the last 300 metres that Kulczynski has been able to close to Etienne. That's, again, impressive in itself. And Kristen Kulczynski, she's not just trying to bring back Etienne here, but also break Guerra and Hill. Every single time that Kulczynski has tried to make a move, Gabriela Guerra has been straight on to Kulczynski, the American. She's immediately wanted to try and match her power for power, pedal stroke for pedal stroke, because she knows she's such a danger, and especially when we get to those steeper gradients. But also Hill, the only other rider who's been able to follow Guerra and Kulczynski. At this point, we've got 3 exceptional climbers, and not too far back, we've got Harris, who's only at 41 seconds, a couple of seconds behind this trio here. But it's where can Etienne try and hold on, and she's gained another couple of seconds, but that's just purely down to the fact that these 3 riders here have just nullified each other. They're almost looking at each other virtually, waiting for the next big attack to come.
That's great to get.
Om u een idee te geven van waar de dames ongeveer zitten, schakelen we weer eventjes over naar Amelia van Hoven. Onze eerste dame in het pak, met 23. Als u rechts kijkt, dan ziet u het profiel van de Alp. En dan ziet u het blauwe pijltje Emilia, die nu op weg is naar bocht 7. Dan eventjes uitzoomen. Zo, dan ziet u daarboven de finish liggen. We gaan dus tot bocht 0, om het zo te zeggen. Dat wil zeggen dat de dames iets verder nu wel al zijn dan halverwege, maar u ziet het gaat toch wel richting, toch bijna richting het uur zijn, toch voor de meeste van onze dames denk ik. Dus u ziet ook aan de bolletjes waar de eerste dame zit. Die is nu op weg naar bocht 6. Uiteindelijk, als je nu kijkt, en we gaan er eens eventjes terug inzoomen, ziet Amelia echt niet zo heel slecht, want voor haar zit er toch nog een race. Je kan daar de rode bolletjes zien. Natuurlijk is het wel bergop en het lijkt dichter dan het is. Maar je weet nooit, als er nog een enkele stilval, dan kan het misschien wel top 15 gaan. Of omgekeerd, dat gaan we moeten zien, maar daar gaan we niet vanuit. Momenteel rijdt ze toch aan een strak tempo, ook een hoge hartslag, dus in ieder geval niet aan het slabakken. Krijgt weer 2 nieuwe rensters in het vizier daarvoor. Nog altijd mooi boven de 4 watt kilo. Ondertussen 13 kilometer gedaan en al 700 hoogtemeters. Nog even meegeven voor de mensen die toch betrouwd zijn en vertrouwd zijn met ZWIFT. De dames en straks ook de heren zijn verplicht op 100% te rijden. Ik ga er dan ook vanuit dat de meesten op een binnenblad aan het rijden zijn. Dat is toch net wat anders als wanneer je de keuze hebt. Maar momenteel gaat het goed voor Amelia. Halverwege naar bocht 6. Tussen 7 en 6 was het langste stuk van de klim. Daarna komt naar bocht 5 nog en dan zijn het relatieve korte stukken van 5 naar 4 en 3 en 2 en 1. Met dan na bocht 1 nog even een steiler stukje. En dan nog de uitloper naar de effectieve finish. Als u rechts kijkt, ziet u daar ook waar de eerste zitten. Die zijn nu halverwege tussen bocht 6 en bocht 5. Ik heb wel de indruk... Nu zien we de eerste verschijnen. Ik dacht dat de eerste rensters van haar pluimen aan het verliezen was, maar die zat verscholen achter bocht 5. Die is daar al voorbij. Dus het ligt daar vooraan allemaal uiteen. Allemaal solo. De eerste renster zit dus nu is op weg naar bocht 4. We gaan eventjes terug overschakelen.
Out the saddle was the great Alberto Contador, a man that we both worked with. We used to spend 20 minutes out the saddle. He trained himself to do it, and now we're seeing that in the virtual world deployed to quite devastating effect. We've had Sandrine Etienne picture in picture for quite a while now. We've gone back and two on several occasions, and she is still riding out of the saddle. It actually, you do end up spending that a little bit more energy because you're recruiting your lower back, your shoulders, and your arms as well. But I tell you what, she is doing brilliantly here. Can she start to believe she's going to stay away? Still 2.9 k's to go, about 700 or 800 meters to the next intermediate sprint point. But unless something catastrophic happens, unless somebody else could do something special from behind, it looks like the French woman from the Hexagon team is going to take a very big win and certainly help up a team as well towards a very high score, because she's taken all of the sprint points as well. And then there's another one in just a few hundred meters time, and she has a 51-second lead.
And look at this, she's got reinforcements from behind because Mottas, her French teammate, has made her way back into this group. And this could be putting Hexagon into a formidable place right now if she can try and add some points at this third and final intermediate sprint, and then of course score highly at the finish. This is very, very impressive from Hexagon in the orange and black jerseys, because Mottas has been keeping herself in a nice rhythm, and just for anybody who's watching at home and tuning in, or perhaps tuning in for the first time, go away, get on your bike and try and ride out of the saddle for 2, 3, 4 minutes and just see how difficult and how hard that is, and how hard it is for your upper body, you know, your arms, your forearms, your back, and how much stress and strain that puts on. And that'll give you some idea as to how strong physically that Etienne is.
Yep, it's more like, I tell you what, I've tried it a few times, it's more like cross-training than cycling. I tell you what, it's a proper all-in effort for the entire body. But I tell you what, she's ripping this field apart. She's ripping herself apart in the process. And again, she's continuing to ride metre by metre, corner by corner. With each metre of elevation that she gains, she is building on the lead. 56 seconds to the second rider on the road, Katie Hill from the Ionian cycling team. Gabriela Guerra in third on the road for Sarens Nopes pins at 57 seconds. Mottas, her teammate, hovering behind. It looks like Hexagon are going to score a lot of points today. It won't be very long before our leader, Sandrine Etienne, moves through that next intermediate sprint and bags another 150 points for her team. That's certainly going to happen. The big question is, can she hold on? Has anybody got anything left? But with a lead now approaching 1 minute, it looks as if she's going to pull off a spectacular victory.
150 points into the pocket, that's all confirmed. From behind, Kulczynski wanting to go and stretch things out a little bit earlier as she heads towards that intermediate sprint, but Hill of Ionian isn't having any of this. Look at the acceleration from the British woman there.
Yep, Katie Hill looks like she's going to take this one. She's opened up quite a few metres on the riders in the group just behind. Guerra looks like she might be taking third there in the white and pink of the Sarens Nopins team, but a good move by Katie Hill here. A big acceleration, and that acceleration, unsurprisingly, as Hill takes second, Guerra takes third. Kulczynski might have just got fourth place there. We'll wait for confirmation, but that big acceleration by Hill has taken a few seconds back, so the lead of Sandrine Etienne is now 43 seconds. But again, because of that effort by Katie Hill, you do wonder whether she can sustain that in the final 2 kilometres, because the lead is starting to eke out again now.
And especially as we start to see the road rise once again, and we're starting to see those double digits in terms of the percent of the gradient, and you'll see again 12, 13, 14% for this final part. So it's what you've got left in the tank. Sandrine Etienne with 150 points for Hexagon. Katie Hill taking 75 points for Ionian. Gabriela Guerra for Sarens Nopins taking 50. Kulczynski adding 40 to her previous 35 points that she scored. And Mottas giving Hexagon another 35 points, 185 points scored at that third bonus sprint.
Well, it's a good day so far for Hexagon. Okay, they've got the leader, Sandrine Etienne. It looks like she's going to romp away from this one. They've got Mottas, Alliance Mottas in that chasing group, but the total points so far, 335 points to Ionian's 200 points. What a team demonstration, a solo demonstration, but the fact Mottas is mopping up behind as well is mightily impressive. So Sandrine Etienne is getting towards the point on the climb where the gradient lessens ever so slightly. You can just see the speed she is moving at now, still hovering at about 5 watts a kilo as we look again at the confirmation of the team points so far. I honestly don't think that is going to change the way that Hexagon are riding. She's going to get maximum points across the line if she holds on to the lead. But with 1,500 metres to go, Hannah, she still has a lead of 45 seconds. What a demonstration. But just behind now, gap starting to open amongst the chasers.
Gap starting to open up. 8 seconds currently to Harris, Mottas, Kulczynski. Has Kulczynski done a little bit too much too soon, where we saw on those previous hairpins where she was really trying to do some damage to the group, the chasing group that she was in. Is she now starting to pay for the big accelerations that she was trying to put the pressure under her rivals? Because now the gap opening up once again, and it's only going southwards.
It certainly is. Kulczynski, there's one thing that you do know, regardless of how she's doing in terms of form, she will give it absolutely everything. She's clearly going well, but she's dropping away ever so slightly. But one thing is for sure, she will not give up the fight. Still just over 200 watts. You can just see the rider in front of her. She's got the crosshairs set on Laurence Motas of Hexagon, who's riding in 5th place. So Kulczynski, who we're focusing on now, is 6th place on the road. And she's got a reasonably decent gap. She's got about 16 seconds to Paul from the G. Paul from the coalition team, sat in 7th place. And the top 20 spread over 3 minutes and 50 seconds now, Hannah. So I do think we aren't going to see all of the riders scoring. 1.1 kilometers to go now for Etienne, as we continue to focus on Kulczynski. And these are the chasers. What a ride by the Brazilian from Saris Nopins here. 43 seconds is the gap, and Katie Hill holding on to the wheel of the rider from Saris Nopins. There's a real furious battle for 2nd, 3rd and 4th and 5th on the road here, Hannah.
I think Guerra and Hill have been the two riders where they've been the epitome of patience. They've not made any big accelerations to try and make attacks, to try and split things up and to try and put their rivals under pressure, but they've done a lot of following and playing that patience, and now they're really starting to be able to capitalise on the fact that they've still got something left in the tank for this final kilometre to try and drop their rivals, but also make sure that they score highly. And whilst Sandrine Etienne is going to go on and take 300 points at the finish line, there's still big points. 280 points for 2nd, 260 for 3rd, 245 and 230 for the top 5 riders that will finish here on the 2nd Grand Prix.
Yeah, we certainly know that probably at least the top 30 riders are definitely going to score. But it's all about how fast Sandrine Etienne continues to ride, because the faster she rides, the more riders that won't finish within 7 minutes of her. So that'll be right at the very back of her mind. She probably won't even be thinking about that little statistic, of course. It's all about making sure she can continue what has been a nothing short of magnificent the ride today. A demonstration of raw power and confidence too, because she has shown everybody on this mountain. The biggest climb, of course, in Watopia, the Alpe de ZWIFT, bend for bend, metre for metre, replicating the mighty slopes of the iconic Alpe d'Huez in the French Alps. It's been a magnificent ride by this French woman today. Still got 44 seconds, but this is going to be a famous victory for her.
It's going to be an exceptional victory, this one, Matt. I mean, I've never seen anything quite like it. For a rider to go quite so early and to be able to hold off some of the best esports riders and climbers in the world on the Alpe de ZWIFT here, this is just nothing short of incredible, amazing. And I have to say, this is going to give Hexagon and Sandrine Etienne so much confidence going forward in the ZWIFT Grand Prix, but also towards other series too. But this behind Kulczynski is alongside Paul, the German rider of Coalition. Coalition with 2 riders in the top 10. There's Stephanie Sidlick, who sits in 8th, and still Etienne, she's not sitting up. She's not knowing that she's got such a time gap here, Matt, of 45 seconds. She's not letting up the pace at all, and she's going to put a lot of riders out of that point scoring zone.
Zoals u ziet is de Française bijna boven nu aan het standbeeld. En dat is dan wel een belangrijk moment om te weten welke tijd ze neerzet. Dan kunnen we gaan rekenen. Het komt er links ook op. Bij de dames is het blijkbaar 7 minuten. Bij de heren 5, als ik het goed heb straks. Tenzij dat ZWIFT het weer veranderd heeft. Ja, het zal beginnen aftellen nu. Ik ben benieuwd. Gaan we het ook wat in het oog. We gaan eens kijken naar onze eerste renster Emilia. Nog altijd op plek 22. Op weg naar bocht 1. Dus voor haar gaat dat in principe geen probleem zijn. Maar u ziet wel dat het snel gaat. Ondertussen al een halve minuut weggetikt. Ik had dat Emilia binnen gaat komen toch op, ja, het zal toch makkelijk op 3 minuten zijn. Misschien zelfs iets meer. Ze is bijna aan bocht 1. En dan binnen een kleine 25 minuutjes schakelen we over naar de mannen. Waar we wel een serieus ijzer in het vuur hebben, natuurlijk, met Lennart Heugels, die er vandaag toch wel zijn zinnen heeft opgezet. Maar ook onze andere jongens die we geselecteerd hebben, die zijn wel in orde voor dit werk. Dus van de heren verwacht ik sowieso wel iets. We moeten nog een statement maken tegenover vorige week. Ondertussen gaan we stilaan naar de 2 minuten al die afgetikt zijn. Emilia nog ongeveer 500 meter. Maar dat is nog een steil stukje. Ze zit op 7% voor het moment. Mag niet slabakken, want ik zie daar toch nog een 4-5 rensters achter. Zit op plek 21. Ja, als ik het zo zie en ik zie de tijd aftellen, dan vrees ik dat er misschien maar een 30-tal rensters van 106 punten gaan krijgen boven. Dat alle rest buiten tijd gaat zijn. Amelia nog altijd op plek 22. En kruipt langzaam maar zeker naar de top. Ze ziet het standbeeld voor haar. Een drietal rensters voor haar, dus ik denk dat ZWIFT zo meteen haar zal opvangen. Ondertussen zitten we halfweg de deadline. Lies van Houwelingen. En dan zal het bijna nog 2 rensters aan Lies. U ziet Amelia daar rechts in de lijst opduiken op plek 21. Dus dat gaat lukken, maar als u ziet op 4 minuten 22 van de winnares. Even opletten, ze gaan nu binnenkomen. De volgende. We zien dat ze niet nog genikt wordt. Ze wordt 22e denk ik. Ze waren met 2. Ik moet even afwachten. Ja, zoals u hoort zie ik het iets vroeger dan jullie. Er zit ongeveer een delay op van 15 tot 20 secondjes. Hier is ze. Dan gaan we naar de volgende. Dat zou Imogen moeten zijn. Als we nog kunnen geraken, want dat is ook ZWIFT. Proberen. Nee, eens we over de finish zijn, kunnen we niet meer terug. Dus ik ga met jullie samen even nu moeten afwachten of dat we nog rensters krijgen die de deadline halen van die 2 minuten dat er nog op de klok staan. Het zal spannend worden. Als er 1 iemand misschien nog boven geraakt, zal het Imogen zijn. Voor de rest vrees ik er een beetje voor. Een dikke minuut. Weer nog even te zien of ik iemand toch nog ergens kan spotten. Ja, ik heb ze gevonden. Ze ziet het standbeeld. Moedig haar nog even aan via de chat. Het zal erom gaan spannen. U ziet ze daar, plek 42 in het rood. Moedig haar aan. Hier is ze. Kom op. Ah, dat gaat niet lukken. Jammer genoeg. Het is hier nog net te steil. En de knik komt iets te ver. Je ziet het. Zo jammer. Hier eindigt het voor Imogen. Mooi gereden en daar duikt de banner op. Voor deze rensters en alles dat erachter komt is het te laat. Niks aan te doen. U ziet het, de mannen die vertrekken binnen 18 minuutjes. We gaan even het woord terug aan ZWIFT geven voor een round-up. En dan kom ik Seves graag bij u terug voor de wedstrijd van de mannen. Daar kijken we naar uit. Tot zometeen.
No points from last week, so essentially we're starting afresh in terms of the point score. Have Hexagony done enough to top the leaderboard after round 2? Now, it does look as if, before we move on to confirmation of the points, it might be, oh, he's just wandered off now. I'm looking at my picture-in-picture. Maybe have a bit of a chat with Nathan Guerra ahead of the men's race. But your takeaways from that one, I think they're pretty simple, Hammer, I'd imagine.
Absolutely exceptional performance there from Sandri and Etienne. I mean, my takeaway is it's brutal. It doesn't allow any rider to sit in the wheels and have an easy ride to the top of the Alpe d'Huez. That was a hard-fought win for Etienne, the Frenchwoman, but also behind in terms of the physical effort and the attributes that you have to have as a rider. It's unforgiving racing all the way to the top of the Alpe d'Huez, but I think for those climbers and those who really thrive in the mountains, they've had their day to show what they're capable of and to really shine.
Yep, and that's an all-important 7-minute cut-off is going to mean that a lot of teams aren't going to score as many points as they would have perhaps thought. Points distributed all the way from first place down to 80th, but from looking at what we saw, I do think only 41 riders are going to have scored points, so roughly half the field eliminated in terms of their ability to score points. But a fascinating race. It's always exciting, always brutally hard when we visit the Alpe d'Huez. It's one of the reasons I generally only go up it once or twice a year on special occasions when I've got good form, Hannah. I don't know about yourself, but one man who does know the Alpe d'Huez, as soon as we get confirmation of the points, we'll give them to you. We've got a fair bit of time in between this moment and the start of the men's race, so I think it might be a good idea to bring on our resident expert and a man who isn't just one of the best commentators on Zwift out there, he's also rather good at riding. And yeah, I'm just glad I'm not in the race when this man's around. But Nathan, okay, what can we expect based on what we've seen on the women's race from the men's race? We know how hard the Alpe d'Huez is. We know quite often it's every man for themselves. But what are your big takeaways from what we've just seen?
Well, what was really interesting was that the women's field blew up right from the get-go, and that I thought perhaps you'd have riders going for that first bonus points, those first sprint points, and then backing off. But that didn't happen. They went for that, and then they continued on, and nobody caught up. So that's going to be interesting. In the men's race, I'm wondering if we're going to have a similar situation, or you're going to have a little bit more of a team tactical situation where riders go full on orange numbers, a little bit more of a sprint. I mean, I think that's like a 3.5 minute effort, that first point. So, or maybe 4 or 5. And it's their VO2, but they know they're not a 40-minute climber. So they're just going to go nutso. And then those who are more going to go for a steady state, try to go for the win, perhaps be able to catch up and go for, the top and those other later sprint points. So that's the only difference I might be able to see, because that actually really surprised me a little bit up front that it blew up that much. So yeah, really interesting race to watch. And obviously I'm super, super proud of Gabriella. This one's been on the radar for a while, and we've been training for it and stuff. We'll see how it goes. For me, though, personally, I'm kind of in hang-on mode. Like, I'm an okay climber. I'm not. Some of these guys, though, I'll be happy if I'm within the time cut, and we'll see how it goes.
And that's a serious one, though, Nathan. When you look at how important the point scoring is, how generous it is, it also, a 5-minute cutoff. We know there are, based on what we've seen in the women's race, it's quite possible that we could see something similar around half the field, depending on how the racing is at the front, half the field with no points today. So it is going to be, for a lot of riders, literally not doing too much too early, just trying to stay within the limit to score as many points as they can.
Yeah, you can go backwards real fast, right? I mean, if you try too hard to hang on where you just shouldn't be, and you got to know your limits. So I think a lot of people are coming in with that mindset. Know your limits, know what you need to do. And being within that time cut is such a huge advantage to your team if you're able to make that. I think that, a lot of people are going to be more so than watching that front group. They're going to be watching the clock and racing that clock to make sure that they're within those gaps that they need to have to the leader. So, and some teams, if they have a really good climber.
Zometeen gaan we dus over naar de mannenwedstrijd. Binnen een 12-tal minuutjes. De jongens staan klaar, zijn zich aan het opwarmen. Terwijl we Nathan Guerra een beetje laten uitleggen, gaan wij eventjes overlopen. U hebt, als u de dames gevolgd heeft, heeft u gezien hoe dat er een beetje aan toe gaat. Dus het is afdalen naar de Alp. 3 tussensprints, waar de 5 eerste punten krijgen en niet de 3 eerste. 150, 75, 50, 40 en 35 zag ik. 3 maal dus die punten zijn ook wel iets of wat belangrijk. Je moet zien of dat je ze kan nemen of niet. Vandaag leggen wij al onze eieren in het mandje voor Lennart Teugels. Die heeft er zijn zinnen op gezet om hier vandaag een knaltijd neer te zetten. Bij de mannen gok ik dan iets van rond de 35 minuten op de klim. Ook onze andere jongens zijn er klaar voor. En als ik over de andere jongens spreek, dan is dat Jopie Rot, die vandaag ook van start gaat. Mathieu de Kok is onze derde man. Rinus Verellen is onze vierde man. En uiteindelijk Stefan van Aalst is de vijfde man die voor ons van start gaat gaan. Een heel solide team, denk ik. Technisch gezien denk ik niet dat er iemand van de 5 normaal buiten tijd gaat zijn. Het zou straf zijn, maar je weet maar nooit. Het hangt er vanaf of Lennart direct de knuppel in het hoenderhok gooit van kilometer 0. Of dat hij wacht tot ergens een tactische plaats waar hij dan een aanval plaatst. Als hij al een aanval plaatst, maar daar gaan we wel vanuit. In ieder geval, we gaan het zo meteen zien. Ik heb er goede hoop op en ik kijk er zeker naar uit. Ik ga jullie ook weer op de hoogte houden van de plaatsen. Ik denk ook wel dat in de livestream van ZWIFT onze jongens misschien iets beter in beeld gaan komen dan straks bij de dames. Waarom niet slecht bedoeld is, maar ik denk dat onze jongens iets dichter van voor gaan meedoen. En zeker Lennart. Misschien wordt dat wel zoals de Française er strak een solo tot aan de finish. We gaan het zo meteen weten. Nog een 10-tal minuutjes. Ik geef dan even het woord weer door aan ZWIFT, want ik denk dat ze zo meteen met de ploegpresentaties gaan beginnen. En dan kunt u die live volgen. Tot zo.
So, the points have been tallied up. Our engineers have had the abacus out, and this is the situation. Wow, look at this. First place, no real surprise there at all. I roughly worked it out, but it wasn't too hard, was it? Hexagoni have got, well, 1,052 points ahead of Ionian with 917. Coalition Alpha there in third with 780. Toyota, a good fourth place for them for 624. Virginia's Blue Ridge 2024, solid in fifth with 557. Then we have Saris No Pins with 525. Seventh place for Wahoo Lacole, 431. Next, Esports 8 with 420. Ninth place, Team Swedish Zwifters with 306. Then we have Movistar, Team Castelli, Rocca Corba, Beast Mode, Abus Synergy, BL13, Power by Level Yield, and then Primos PWB, of course, the Race Without Borders squad in 16th place. Unfortunately, no points for that team tonight, but that is the final tally, and a quite dominant performance, unsurprisingly there, Hannah, by Hexagoni.
That was incredible. 1,052 points. Very, very dominant. And I tell you what, I bet they couldn't do that if they tried to match the amount of elevation climbed here on the Alpe de Zwift of 1,052 meters, matching it with the amount of points they scored in round 2 of this Zwift Grand Prix on the Mountain Points race. But overall, exceptional teamwork, exceptional performance. And I think they're going to carry a lot of confidence into the next round of this Grand Prix, having beaten one of the best teams in esports, Ionian, into second.
Of course, Ionian, the champions last year, Hannah, you are right. Well, let's tell it, before we move on to look ahead to the men's race, let's just have a look at the moment that Sandrine Etienne made her move. And here it was. Hannah, talk us through this.
This was the moment where we already had this select group that had formed with Hale, Kulczynski, Guerra and Etienne, and you can see just how steep the gradients are. We're now here at 9.8 kilometers to go. We're just heading into the village, into the hairpin, and carrying all that momentum and also putting in a big acceleration at that moment, and no one made any immediate reaction, whether that was because they didn't necessarily think that from such a long way out that the move would stay away, or indeed they just didn't quite simply have it in the legs to be able to react at that moment in time. But it was a slog to really start to try and gain a handful of seconds even. You can see just how long that had taken just to open up a 1-2 second advantage for Etienne.
Indeed, well, a superb performance. As you said, Hannah, they're going to take a lot of confidence into round 3. But we've got 6.5 minutes till the men's race. We are, of course, in Watopia. We're looking at the various beautiful realms, roads within Watopia. And recently, we've had a brand new expansion that has been dropped. I've not been on it yet. And although I've got a bit of a cough, I really want to, I'm straining at the leash to drop into the Southern Coast expansion. Let's have a little sneak peek at the brand new expansion in Watopia, because it looks absolutely amazing. Well, I don't know about you guys at home. I was doing a little bit of a samba around my back office to that music and booking a date to hop on board in the new Watopia expansion. The Southern Coast, well, you got to flavour it there. Please dive in as soon as you can. Right, next up, we've got 5 minutes to go. It is the men's race, exactly the same course that we saw in the women's. It is a mountain points race. It is the race to the sky up the 12.2 kilometre ascent of the Alpe d'Huez. There it is. There's all of the stats you need. 3 intermediate sprint points along the way, offering up 150 points, 75, 50, 40 and 35. And the cut-off for the riders today, as soon as the winner crossed the line, the clock will start, and anybody who finishes outside of 5 minutes behind will not score any points at all. And we saw half of the field essentially eliminated in the women's race. Hannah, let's kick things off and have a look at our riders today with sheet number 1.
We've got Aber Synergy, the team who finished 3rd overall last season. They're headed up by Joe Pirot. It's an all-Belgian squad that is the first team to get underway. Beast Mode powered by Rose, a new team here in the ZWIFT Grand Prix for German riders, with Ben Nordstrom, the rider from the USA, making up their 5th rider. BL13, a new team, and again, a very dashing jersey. It's pretty buzzing, that, isn't it? They've got Michael Gantz, David Griffiths, Josh Harris, Joel Lewis, Andy Nichols within their squad. Nichols, a great climber in his own right. Watch out for the man from the United Kingdom. We've got our defending champions, Coalition Alpha, who were 1st overall last season. They've got Reese Howell in the virtual team car. They've got 5 riders, 5 different nationalities. Anna Jacobs, Ollie Jones, Mikhail Kaminski, Spencer Segerbrucker and Lionel Villasin, the Belgian. Watch out for that squad. They've got plenty of firepower, horsepower within their roster of 5. Take it on to the next page.
Cheers. Yes, we're going to have to rattle through these because we're racing soon. Deepak Elite, another new team. A couple of Welshmen in the mix. Daniel Pettinger is essentially, as we say in football, a player manager or rider manager. We've got Tom Burns in the mix there as well, Fabian de Evola. A new team as well, Foudre Puncheurs Coalition. Primarily French chaps in that team and a German. They'll be looking to impress. Hexagone, can they do as well as the women's team? 8th last year. Well, they've set the bar very, very high indeed. Sebastian Avo and Berk Kayin there from Turkey. Movistar, regulars to esports, of course, well established now, but watch out for Harvard Ledners and Vidar Mel and Kiel Power. Pim van Diemen might prefer the flatter roads, but might have his work cut out today. And also watch out for the Spaniard Miguel Angel Andres. Okay, next up.
Next up, we've got the team who finished just off the podium in the overall Grand Prix series. 4th overall, it's Next Esports powered by Insured. They've got Scott Cantanzaro, the rider from the USA, who finished 8th at the UCI Esports World Championships. He leads that squad of arguably one of the strongest teams on paper tonight with their 5 riders. Then we've got Primo, the squad that's led by Sean Gallagher, Jacob Andresen, the British rider who will lead their 5 riders. 4 Irishmen who make up the rest of the roster. We've got Restart, who's a new team with Charles McCarthy in the virtual team car. Then we've got Saris. So 3 new teams within this page. All 5 riders of Saris from the USA. Holden Komu, an exceptional climber.
He is indeed. Well, our final page of teams before we kick things off, Team Castelli. The man needs no introduction. He's the only American rider in the Italian-led squad. Nathan Guerra, let's see what he can do. We'll have Benedetti, Gaffuri, Panizza and Severa with him for company. Team Swedish Swifters, 12th overall last year. They'll certainly be looking to improve on that. Stefan Kirkmare, I think it's fair to say, would be their main rider there. Toyota Elite, the runners-up in 2021-2022. Watch out for Brad Gouveres. He is an exceptionally talented rider from South Africa, backed up by a multinational team. And then finally, 5th overall last year, managed by Fuel Davis, is Wahoo Lecol. And they have a very strong team, of course, containing the world esports champion, Bjorn Andreasen. Watch out for him in the unmistakable rainbow bands. Right, without further ado, Hannah, let's kick things off. Hopefully, we'll head to the pens because in 30 seconds' time, they'll be tackling the mountain points race. Round 2 of the ZWIFT Grand Prix. The road to the sky, the road to pain, the road...
We gaan eraan gaan beginnen. Ik kan u nog even meegeven dat ik zo een goede 5 seconden voor lig op het beeld dat u hebt. Dus ik heb wel een beetje insight en kan ik die ook meegeven. We zijn weg.
To see those rainbow bands in this Grand Prix is fantastic, and having Bjorn Andreasen, and especially
Nog een 20-tal seconden. En excuses, wij zijn hier al vertrokken. Maar zo kan ik u sowieso goed op de hoogte houden. Ik geef het woord aan YouTube.
Well, the countdown is done and our riders are off. Will we see anybody go early? I very much doubt it. We're looking at the stats of Andreasen, just looking at, remember, the Zwift racing has really evolved over the last few years. It really, really has. I remember commentating in the very early days. And although they're very, very quick starts, this is a relatively modest start because of what's to come. We used to see riders kicking out 800-900 watts from the very beginning, but with the Alpe de Zwift looming in about 5 kilometers time, Hannah, this is just about bedding in early on. It's no points for bravery this early on. It's just making sure you're in a good position in the pack. You're feeling okay, but in these early stages, conserving as much energy as you can. Although we've got the Evola, who's already just slipped off the front, the Belgian, running for D-Pack Elite, but he's clearly setting a decent tempo at the front. But as we continue to look at the stats of Andreasen, but these early stages, all about staying as calm as you can, I think.
it's keeping that composure, making sure that you are being patient along with that, and making sure that you're not getting carried away too much in this early part and trying to make big accelerations, and you're almost expending and using a lot of the energy that you'll crucially need once we get deep onto the mountain. But there's certainly going to be that early part of this round where it's going to be a very, very different race in the way it unfolds to the women's race that we've just seen. It'll be really interesting to see, have teams selected riders within their roster and their sole goal, their sole aim of being a part of that 5-rider roster this evening is to go all out for the first intermediate sprint. Then perhaps some riders who will be trying to be up there for as long as possible to go for the second intermediate sprint and really try and use their numbers wisely and make sure that they can use them to good effect here. And so I think in terms of the strategy, and you can see just from the pace, this is electric. And despite knowing what they've got to come here, there's no prisoners being held.
No, everybody's running it around between 3 and 4 watts a kilo. Riders moving around the pack. Beautiful to see. I have missed commentating on Zwift. I'm glad to be back in the mix with yourself, Hannah, as we take our way through this brand new season. It's great fun. It is so much fun to see the way that the sport has evolved. And also, I'm looking forward in a couple of weeks' time when we get rounds 3, 4 and 5 actually incorporating and semi-integrated with the Zwift Racing League, which is the foundation. All of these riders will come from the ZRL, the community teams, of course, of which Nathan Guerra has been a big part of and a big champion of that. There are thousands, and I mean thousands of teams all over the world who race. This is the very elite level, but we're going to link those two together. So the Grand Prix series will race on exactly the same courses as the ZRL, and then it really helps us champion the community, which is fundamentally the elite racing has only risen from the community, so massively important. And I'm looking forward to getting stuck in. And different formats as well. We've got the team time trial to come as well, more points races, scratch races, all to come. But it's Holden Commieux on the front, a man very experienced indeed. Been up there in the World Championships in the past, also has been the esports champion of the United States of America. This man doesn't take any prisoners. He is looking good and happy to set the pace early on at the front here.
This is interesting because he's starting to form and bring a little group along with him. And Anderson, De Hond, Evola, Mel, also Boulanger of the Foudre team, the French team, just behind. Nichols trying to chase for the BL13 squad in that magnificent fade jersey. But this is interesting in the way in which we're seeing 7 riders going clear, 7 different teams. Or 6 riders, 6 different teams.
Yeah, that's been snuffled out, hasn't it? That did look. They had about 2 seconds lead there, Hannah, at one point, and that was pretty dangerous. Vidar Mel was in there. A couple of very dangerous riders that you wouldn't want to get into a team time trial formation. And this is where you do wonder whether a couple of riders are just going to try something early. for the reasons that you talked about earlier on, the way that the points are distributed. And a reminder for any of you who are just joining us, we've had the women's race earlier on, and this is the first time on this particular course on Zwift. It is the Road to the Sky, the Alpe de Zwift. We've only ever had scratch races on here before. It's just first to the top, nice and simple. This one is different. There are points at the top, and there are points at 3 intermediate points along the way. And
we gaan eraan beginnen. De Alp Doemtop. Meteen naar de rechtse bocht gaat u het gordijn zien waar we doorgaan. En dan beginnen we te klimmen vanaf de bocht links gaat. Alles nog samen. Ik zie wel al enige geloste achteraan, dat is straf. Tot nu toe is het eigenlijk voornamelijk bergaf geweest. Nu gaan we kijken. Bij de mannen zal het misschien net iets tactischer worden dan bij de dames. Sommigen zullen echt puur inzetten op die eerste sprint. Om dan daarna af te geven. Dan zien we Stefan van Aalst goed voorin. We zien al onze jongens goed voorin. Mathieu de Kok zit daar. Jo Pirot.
Move for Saracen Opens. Look at that. This is a big effort from the rider from the USA. Sponsors such as Groupama coming in to sponsor Hexagon, the French team, LCL, who is the sponsor of the yellow jersey in the Tour de France. We're seeing big sponsors who are now investing into esports and into these teams that are racing here in this very Zwift Grand Prix.
No, totally. It is absolutely wonderful to see it evolving. Year by year, it's getting better and better. More and more riders want it.
Direct een stevig tempo. We zien Matt Gardner aan 7,5 watt per kilo. Die is dus niet van zin van met de kopgroep naar boven te rijden. Die gaat proberen de punten te nemen, maar daar zijn we nog niet. We moeten eerst nog de tunnel in. En het ligt dan op het einde van de tunnel. 150 voor de winnaar. Dat is evenveel als dat de winnaar boven krijgt. Dus het is soms wel de moeite om ervoor te gaan. Maar de eerste komt zo snel. We zien Jo Pirot in de positie. Maar je ziet al die wattages boven de 6 watt bijna. Op zich, als wij het moeten bekijken vanuit het team, is het voor ons goed dat de ploegen die dat wij het minst vrezen met punten gaan lopen. En dat zijn dan misschien wel de ploegen zoals Saris bijvoorbeeld. Misschien ook wel Movistar, Wahoo Col. Ik denk dat we in alle wedstrijden en toernooien dat we al gedaan hebben, altijd het meeste te vrezen hebben van teams als Next en van Coalition. Dat onze eeuwige partners in crime zijn voor het podium. Laat me natuurlijk graag verbazen ook door arme teams. We hebben vorige week ook wel gezien BL13, dat die ook wel goed waren. U ziet hier Nichols van dat team. Dawson daarachter ook altijd sterk. Rijdt voor Wahoo Col. U ziet Lennart Teugels opschuiven naar positie 5. Jo Pirot volgt. Ik denk dat we langzaam maar zeker eraan begonnen zijn. Even in toog houden. Ook de jongens wat meegeven. Lennart positie 4. Ik heb hem net meegegeven dat er 5 eerste punten krijgen, dus die zal wel in die top 5 blijven zitten nu. Zo, Lennart wordt hier nog wel voorbij gereden, zie ik, door Gilnes. Dus Lennart vijfde. Maar op mijn beeld, dat is zo'n 20 seconden vroeger, is Lennart nu al eerste. Dus u gaat dat zo meteen wel in beeld krijgen ook. De move van Lennart Teugels. Die al 3 seconden heeft op de tweede, dus is er al aan begonnen. Erop en erover, u ziet het ook rechts in uw scherm. Hier gaat hij. U ziet Dawson, die gaat op zijn gemakje naar boven, die heeft zijn werk gedaan. 75 punten. Ondertussen staan wij ook wel mee op het bord, omdat Lennart vijfde werd, 35 punten. En nu is het belangrijk om te zien wat erachter gebeurt. Ik ga hem op de hoogte stellen. Ondertussen is er wat afscheidingen, maar zoals u goed rechts kunt zien, ziet u toch redelijk wat Belgische vlaggetjes. Dat tweede is niet van ons, maar Mathieu de Kok, Jopie Rotte en Riens verhellen alle 3 in de top 12. Dus die zitten toch redelijk kort daarachter. Alles onder controle tot nu toe. Zeker wat betreft de punten boven. Ik ga eens even kijken waar Stefan zit. Ik denk dat hij ook wel redelijk kort zit. Stefan die zit voor de moment op plek 24. Iets achter, maar die ziet wel nog een hele race voor zich uitrijden. Het is nog vroeg. Dat hebben we er straks ook gezien bij de dames. Het duurt heel lang. Ondertussen hebben we toch 4 jongens die meedoen voor de top 12-13.
Ben 17 of the hairpins.
Yeah, Turek is looking very good there. Actually got a pretty high cadence going in and out of the saddle. Just out of the saddle, quite often when you go around the hairpin bends, that's where the road sometimes at its steepest. It would be in the real world, in the apex, but that's where the road just kicks up a little bit and you get slingshot into the corner and you can settle down. So a little group has now formed at the front, including Lionel Vuillersan of the coalition team. We've got Martin Martins there of Germany for the Toyota Elite Cycling Team. Tolbert is there from Saris Nopins. Lennart Teugels, our early leader for Abus Synergy. That is our group of 4. And then just behind, although it looks like he's getting back in contact, in fact he has, is Daniel Turek. And we're looking at the group a little bit further down with Kirkmaier there from Austria. Zach Nair is also there. And this is a group that are about 20 seconds behind. So this is a group containing riders positions 7 through to 10. And the gap continuing to open up now. 9.6 Ks to go. And already a significant selection, Hannah. We've got 35 seconds spread over the top 20 riders.
I was taking a look at the records on Strava, the king of the mountain of the Alpe d'Huez earlier on. You've got Jake Paul, who set the best time of 28 minutes 26 seconds. That was at the end of July this year. The best of those racing here in the ZWIFT Grand Prix is Stefan Kirkmaier, the Austrian rider, 32 minutes and 10 seconds. He currently holds the 3rd fastest time in on the Alpe d'Huez here, with Jason Osborne in 6th at 32 minutes and 27 seconds. And of course Osborne racing in the World Tour for Alpes Interkönig. So that just gives you some idea of how exceptional of a time Stefan Kirkmaier has posted here and just how strong he can be. And again, I think it backs up also the fact that there might be some riders who aren't sitting in the top 10 currently, or top 15, who are still biding their time and playing that long game.
Yeah, definitely. Riding what we call a negative split as we look at the stats of the riders covering positions 13 to 24. At the moment, pretty safe, still 9.1 Ks to go. Remember the all-important time cut. The top 80 riders, on the assumption they finish within 5 minutes of our race winner, will all score points. But from what we saw in the women's race earlier on, without giving anything away, you can all watch this later on. You can scrub back to the beginning of the YouTube channel and watch the race. We won't spoil the results right now. You can see what happened there. Lots of riders really suffering on this difficult climb. But it's a good group out in front now. Lionel Villasan is still leading. I remember the name of his duck, by the way, Hannah. Do you remember it?
I have. Gilbert.
It is indeed Gilbert. It is named after Philippe Gilbert. So the only rider on esports that we understand. And please get in touch on social media if you know another Zwifter with a duck called Gilbert. We would love to know. And while we're talking about the wider community getting involved on social media, and what I didn't do earlier on, so I'm going to slap my own wrists, is please open up your Zwift companion app. Follow some of the riders here, your favourite riders, or just riders you want to encourage, and give them a ride on. Most of these riders here are exceptionally popular within the community. I can already see their back pockets are full of ride-ons. Fire up your companion app and give these guys a big virtual ride-on, please. Thank goodness our engineers at Zwift HQ haven't given any weight to the ride-ons. Otherwise, a lot of these riders would really struggle to get up the climb. But let's see a flurry of ride-ons, please, everybody. And thanks indeed for watching. We couldn't do this without you. As we look at the stats of Lionel Villasan, look at that eye-watering numbers here. 560 watts. That traditional headband that we're so used to. Wonderful shock of hair on the top there. But Villasan on a very good day by the looks of things here. Oh, we just missed that one. Sorry, I tell you what, the road is going so quickly. I missed that one. I do figure that was the second sprint done. Let's get confirmation of that very shortly. It was Martin Martins who took maximum points ahead of Daniel Turek. Lionel Villasan in third, Leonard Turgles, and then Brian Talbot there in fifth place there for Saris Nopins. Daniel Talbot, shall I say. So that's your top five. Lots of points on offer there. 150, remember, for the winner. Down to 35 points for fifth. That caught me unawares. That just shows, Hannah, they are moving up the Alpe d'Huez very quickly.
I have to say, I don't think it's doing justice of just how quickly they are climbing the Alpe d'Huez here, because this is exceptional. There's the points overall. BL13 powered by Level Velo on 150. Likewise, Toyota Elite E-Cycling. Saris Nopins on 85 points. 10 points ahead of Wahoo Lacol, who are on joint points with Abus Synergy and Next Esports powered by Insured. Coalition Alpha, courtesy of Lionel Villasan, on 50 points, with Movistar E-Team on 40 points. Only 8 teams have scored thus far. Still points available.
Yeah, there certainly are. We've got one more intermediate sprint to come. That's quite deep into the race. Comes with 2.1 Ks to go, and that's at 15.2 Ks in. So we've got around 5 or so kilometres now with which to really break this race apart. And four riders have moved clear. In fact, the gap now is a significant one, Hannah. Villasan, Turgles, Martins and Turek have a 30-second lead. Daniel Talbot dropped away, was in that front group, the first rider in the group for the Saris Nopins, but now 4 riders left. 2 from Belgium, 1 from Germany, and 1 from from the Czech Republic, from the Next Esports team, and they are moving clear now. And all of these riders right now look pretty evenly matched. Well, I'm looking at their numbers here, Hannah, and it's making me wince. They're all hovering at around 6 watts a kilo, and that is absolutely brutal. Just shows the lofty standard that these riders are world class.
It's the best esports riders in the world who are competing here in the Zwift Grand Prix. This is the best of the best, and what we're seeing is the cream of the crop really rising to the top in terms of the climbers, and it's not very often that we get to see such a pure race for those who thrive in the mountains. Generally, we've had maybe a longer race which has incorporated mountains along the way, but this really is from start to finish. One of those almost hill climbs, a mass start hill climb. And it's a short, sweet affair in terms of the kilometres that they're climbing. You take a look down and you think, well, 17.3 kilometres, it's not too bad really. But when you take a look at how much elevation that they gain in such a short period of time, 1,052 metres up to the top of the Alpe d'Huez, it is eye-watering. It's immensely difficult. But then, of course, you add in the fact that you've got the race for the points. You've also got to try and make the time cut for those riders who have already been distanced earlier on. We're starting to see quite a chase group form. Decock, the Belgian, there's Nicky Hug, Meerding, Kaminski, the Polish rider, Noren is there, the Swede, Kirchmeier, the Austrian, who's just leading affairs for Team Swedish Zwifters.
Yeah, this is a pretty decent group, as you said, Hannah, but they are going at just that little bit slower. In the time it's taken for you to have that little chat a few moments ago, they've taken another 10 seconds, so 44 seconds it is for our 4 leaders. Lionel Vujasan, Martin Martins, Lennart Tergels and Daniel Turek leading the group with Stefan Kirchmeier of the team at Swedish Zwifters. But just looking at the combination of the groups here, remember it's all about teams trying to get as many riders to the fore. Team at Swedish Zwifters have 2 inside the top 10. They're looking good. Abus have 2 inside the top 13. Coalition have 2 inside the top 10 as well. So right now, it's relatively evenly matched as we look at Michael Planture. The Frenchman just on this little flatter section here afforded himself a brief bit of respite before the road kicked up again. The steepest part of the Alpe d'Huez was done at the very bottom. It's now settling to this infernal rhythm here. 25 k's an hour for the Frenchman. It looks like he's in his garage. Good lighting system there. A couple of bikes hung up on the hooks there. Looks super focused. We've still got the best part of 12-15 minutes to go on this climb. And although the gap is continuing to open up, there's only 4 riders in the front group, and of course that's significant in terms of the big points scored, but it's lower down where riders need to bunch up. That's where the big differences are, isn't it? That's where the big counting points happen in terms of multiple riders trying to score as highly as possible.
It will be, and crucially is just trying to make that time gap, because it's a very slender time gap, Matt, 5 minutes. And when you see the riders who are 5th down to 12th currently are just short of a minute behind our leading group of Vujasin, Martins, Tergels and Turek, it's going to be a very close one. Of course, definitely better to get yourself into a group and almost have that motivation between you all to try and work together despite being rivals, but to try and make and give yourself that carrot to chase up ahead and try and pick off riders one by one to try and go up. And it's quite like what Nathan was saying earlier on in the way in which he will want to try and race. There's Michal Kaminski of Coalition Alpha. He's there in that first chasing group. You can just see the jersey flapping, trying to keep his core body temperature as cool as possible, fan in front of him. So important on a mountain like this. In terms of performance, to try and keep your core body temperature as cool as possible. Look at that camera angle.
Yep, great camera shot there, out of the saddle there. Yeah, jersey fully unzipped, headband on, in the style of his team leader. But interesting, looking at the place, looking at the top 20 here, we have got 4 riders from the team that won last year. Vujasin in the front. We're looking at Kaminski there, the Polish rider. They've also got Ollie Jones, and they got Jacobs as well from the Netherlands. The New Zealander, of course, the winner of the Zwift Academy back now in 2018. He's there. So they've got 4 riders inside the top 20. So they're positioned very well. It's all about blocking your riders if you can. Far more difficult on a day like this when it's purely down to legs. A little bit more tactical when it comes to the flatter courses. But right now, the road doesn't lie as we're looking at a group just behind. This is the second group on the road. David Tolbert is there as we move back to the leaders. It looks as if it's down to 3. Daniel Turek of Next Esports has now been dropped. He sits at just under 5 seconds behind these 3. So we've got 2 Belgians and a German. Vujasin of Coalition Alpha, Tergels of Abus Synergy, and Martins of the Toyota Elite e-cycling team. this is starting to get pretty tasty here as we look at the face of Lennart Turgels, Hannah.
Lennart Turgels, only a couple of weeks ago, was racing in the Tour of Turkey, and it seems as though a week of racing, week-long stage race in the legs, a couple of weeks of rest, recovery, let that form settle in, is really starting to come to fruition now. And Turgels is looking very, very comfortable. 2 Belgians and a German leading things at the moment. There's Turek, who is not losing too much distance despite, or too much time too quickly, despite these 3. Starting to make some accelerations. He's able to match them currently, and if he can just try and hold his way and hold himself into that rhythm, he could try and ride himself back into this top 3. There he goes. He rounds that right-hand hairpin. He seems to have found perhaps a little second wave.
Yep, he's not too far off. You're right. He certainly hasn't capitulated as we continue to look at Lennart Turgels. His face lit. Again, it's worth dwelling a little bit on the 30-year-old. It's been around for a while now. Rode for Tartleto Isarex, has moved up to pro team level, so that the 2nd division of pro cycling. He had a contract through next year as well. And also, he finished in 15th place overall in the Tour of Britain, which I had the pleasure of commentating on. This is a man, 15th on the stage over Caerphilly Mountain with some of the finest riders in the world. He really has got what it takes. And without doubt, the most experienced on the road. But it's completely transferable. And what Lennart Turgels does is shows us how seamlessly he can blend riding on the road and riding indoors in esports, and does the two, and they pay off each other. The endurance on the road helps on Zwift, and that the strength that you gain from Zwift helps on the road. It's been proven now, but it's just wonderful to see, and so excited to see Kurt Turgels up in this front group, and again, constantly out of the saddle. This technique that he's got, just under 400 watts, out of the saddle all the time. But it looks now as if Turek is starting to slide back a little bit now, 11 seconds behind our leaders, but he will continue to fight as we move past this little campsite. Looks like they might have had a festival going on earlier on.
I think they've all been camping themselves out, waiting and watching the Alpe d'Huez and watching the Mountain Points race here. I mean, pretty cold affair up towards the top. But certainly for these riders, joking aside, certainly for these riders, whilst it looks cold in our picture, it'll be very toasty. They'll be trying to keep their core body temperature as cool as possible, as best as possible, within their pain caves. And now it's looking like Turgels is trying to break his breakaway companions, Martins and Vyarsin. Here and there, the little acceleration, and he's still out of the saddle. I think that combination of what you were just mentioning there, Matt, of the endurance from the road crossing over and helping you on Zwift and in esports, and then of course the strength you gain from racing here on Zwift, complementing your road racing. But I think it's also that intensity that he's gained over a whole season of road racing, combining that here in esports, is really starting to show the class of the 30-year-old Belgian. He's had 2 pro victories on the road. He is a top rider in his own right. And now Turgels, it's almost like he's toying with Vyarsin and Martins, I think, at the moment, because he looks very comfortable on his facial expression too. He doesn't look like he's panicking. He doesn't look like he's under a lot of stress, a lot of pressure. It's almost like he knows he's in total control here.
Yep, certainly is. He looks good from that head-on shot. As we look a little bit further down, we're looking at Verhelle here. He's down in 16th place on the road for Abus Synergy. And they've got 3 riders in the top 16. He's got Turgels, the teammate, in that front group. And also he's got Dikok in 11th place. So the Belgian squad, as things stand on the road now with 4 kilometers to go, looked like they might be scoring quite a few points. And then we've got Van Elst as well, just a couple of places behind, just moving level with him. So interesting what's happening a little bit further down the road in terms of the teams that we expect to score points. And right now, Coalition Alpha and indeed the Abus Synergy team seem to be 2 of the teams that are going to score very highly today. Remember, we have 1 more intermediate sprint to go, but the first 4 places are indeed going to be taken by Vujasan, Turgles, Martins and Turek. But Turek now dropping back, and it looks like if he's not careful, he may actually get caught by Talbot, David Talbot of Saris, who's at 49 seconds. So Turek now riding on his own, Vujasan leading, Martins just sat there behind in the blue, Turgles on the left-hand side. And when you look at the team performance here, especially how balanced it is, or relatively balanced between Coalition Alpha and Toyota, this next sprint, Hannah, could be pretty important, because the points you could score on this sprint could really determine ultimately the outcome of today's team performance. It could be between first and second, so they're going to have to play this one quite cagey here.
They certainly are, and it's going to be very, very close. And I think that's also crucially the information that's got to come from the sports director in the virtual team car of both of these teams. Reese Howell being one of those sports directors for Coalition Alpha, and it's passing on that information to your riders just to make them aware, because it's easy to look from this side of the fence and think, well, they'll know exactly where they are, they'll know exactly what's happening up the road, where their riders are, where their rivals are. But let's not forget, they're deep into the red currently. They're in a world of pain racing up the Alpe d'Huez, and so having that audio into your ears through Discord or other communication methods from the virtual sports directors is going to be vital, and in the end could be the difference between first and second team on the night.
Indeed. We look at Mading now, a little bit further down, the German, but just double checking and drilling down into the points. 300 for the win, 280 for second, 260 for third, 245 for fourth. Don't think things are going to change. I can't see anybody moving up into the top three. But so the difference between first and second in terms of points, only 20 points. But the difference between first and second on the next intermediate sprint is 75 points. So they're going to have to do their maths here and think, is it worth it? Because even if you stuck 20 seconds in between first and second place rider, it doesn't affect the point score. Okay, the victory is important. It's all about scoring points here. So also that's where discipline comes into play. As we look at David Talbot here and Plantereux, the Frenchman, riding for the team that have had big success already today. But 2.8 Ks to go, 700 metres for our leaders, 5 hairpin bends to go. Again, as we're saying in the women's race here, do you really want to see those indicators on each corner? Perhaps not with 20 to go, but maybe with 3 or 4 to go. But a good battle here for the placings inside the top 10. Talbot currently in 5th, and the Frenchman in 6th place. And there is the elimination zone. So at the moment, the top 57 riders are going to score, but if they really accelerate up in front, we could see some of those riders also moving into the point where they don't score any points at all, Hannah.
There certainly isn't any time for those riders who are sitting in that cut-off point, or even on the cusp at that 4.5 minute, 4 minute 45 marker, to lose their rhythm and to lose sight of what they're trying to achieve this evening. There's Jacob Anderson, the British rider in his pain cave, just mopping the sweat from his brow currently. He's currently in a deficit of 12 seconds from that cut-off, and he knows how crucial his job is tonight to try and make sure he scores some points for his team.
Indeed, he's chasing at 5 seconds or so. Between 5 and 10 seconds, he is in a world of hurt just to try and score some points for his team. That's what's so fascinating about this cut-off point. We've never seen it before. I'll be honest with you, I like it, but I also think it's a little bit cruel. But there we go. That's cycling all over, isn't it? It is cruel, but it gives us a little bit of jeopardy as we look at Ryan. I think it might be a good idea to head to the front, because we've got one more intermediate sprint to come. 2.1 Ks to go. We're nearly at that point now. We know that Turgles is now in front. For your son, excuse me.
2.1 kilometres remaining. Ryan with 18 seconds of a deficit, the Irishman who we're looking at now. He's leading his teammates. If they can try and get themselves together at this point, there we go. You've got 2 teammates who are getting themselves together, Ryan and Anderson. If they can try at some point, whatever they've got left, just to bring themselves, Matt, back into a scoring position as we see the riders go through that third intermediate sprint.
I think we'll get confirmation. It looked like it was Martins that took the points. No, Turgles took the points out of Martins, Vujasan in third. And that's the situation. That acceleration by Turgles and Martins has seen Lionel Vujasan detached. 2 riders on in front. It was indeed Turgles from Martins, Vujasan taking the other points, and then Turek, and then David Tolbert, the final scorer on the final intermediate sprint. Well, 1,800 metres to go. This is the closing stages, the denouement of the ZWIFT Grand Prix Round 2 on the Alpe de ZWIFT. There are 2 riders left in the fray. Martin Martins of the Toyota Elite Cycling Team has moved clear of Lennart Turgles now of Aber Synergy. What has Turgles got left in the tank? Because Martins, the German, has made his move and he's starting to move clear here. And 1,600 metres to go and the race is really on.
Turgles put in a big effort to make sure that he scored those 150 points at that third and final intermediate sprint, but now Martins has tried to capitalise on that, and it's quite like what you were saying, Matt. If he does go on and take the individual victory tonight and score the 300 points and Turgles hangs on for second, there's only going to be a 20-point deficit for the Belgian Turgles, but he's brought himself back up, and look at this, we're seeing a real ding-dong battle between these two start to unfold. Meanwhile, Vujasan at 10 seconds in arrears currently, Turek at 43, but Talbot has been making some considerable inroads. He's only at 57 seconds, and when you look at 4th place currently, the American for Sarasnopins, he's trying to come back to the rider from Czechia of Next Esports, powered by Insured.
He certainly has a good ride, solid ride by the American from Sarasnopins. Here he is on the road, 1,500 metres to go for our leaders. Let's look at the stats of David Tolbert as he nears the end of his epic effort up the most epic climb in Watopia. This, of course, road to the sky. The mountain points race, the first time we've ever done it, and Tolbert in a good position here. 59 seconds behind, safely, of course, within that awful time cut. 5 minutes is the limit. We think we've got about 45 riders that are going to score today, give or take. But Tolbert riding his own race here. He's got a slender lead over Plantureux of the Hexagon team of France, 15 or 16 seconds, but Tolbert looking solid. If we move up back to the front of the race, 2 hairpin bends to go now for the American, but with 1 kilometre to go of round 2 of the ZWIFT Grand Prix. It has been a thriller. 2 riders left in the fray, but Vujasan, interestingly now, is only 9 seconds behind. It seems to have eased in front, or Vujasan has found something special. This is the 4th rider on the road for the Next Esports powered by Insured team. This is Daniel Turek, again a former pro and exceptionally good riders, doing a lot of enduro riding now, a lot of Grand Fondos as well, so remarkably versatile and a top performer and esports as well over the last few seasons on the ZWIFT Grand Prix shows. But Vujasan now in 3rd place at 5 seconds. We've only got 800 metres to go. Let's head to the front of the race, Hannah. This is going to be a thriller.
The comeback is on, and Vujasan is starting to close in 5 seconds, and there's still an opportunity for Vujasan to try and take a steal here. Martins with a big acceleration into this final 600 metres, another little dig, the numbers turn orange. He's wanting the individual victory here, he's wanting the 300 points. Turgles with no response, but Vujasan is coming, and this is the moment, Matt, where Martins tried to make his move.
It's a big, big move. We've only got about 500 metres to go. There is the move. Straight by Turgles, just approaching that hairpin bend. The last hairpins to go. It's opened up some daylight. Let's head back into real time. 450 metres to go. Just under 500 watts, 7.2 watts a kilo. But Turgles is closing. Turgles is closing behind. It's Belgium versus Germany here. Vujasan is out of it, 14 seconds. He should be home and dry in 3rd place. But the win, the battle for the win atop the Alpe de ZWIFT, one of the most iconic locations in Watopia, is on here. Turgles latches into the slipstream of Martin Martins. Now we've got 250 metres to go, but Turgles has faded. He cannot latch on to the back wheel of Martin Martins. His wheel is broken, and to the Toyota Elite e-cycling rider, Martin Martins is going to romp to victory. Turgles will have to be satisfied with the runners-up spot on this occasion. The road just starts to flatten over the top. 100 metres to go for Martin Martins. And it is indeed victory for the man from Germany. Toyota Elite e-cycling are the victors today. Martin Martins takes the win on the Alpe de ZWIFT. He has won the ZWIFT Grand Prix Round 2 in fine style. And Leonard Turgels, another battling performance from the Belgian from Aber Synergy in second. Fantastic stuff there, Hannah.
Sensational. And Martin Martins timing that one and also being able to respond to each and every move, attack from Turgels, Vyarsin. Turek, a very, very brave move as well. He's going to, by the seams of things, just hold on to the 4th place. Vyarsin, the ever all-rounder, I have to say. He climbs well, he's always up there, he's ever consistent, taking 3rd place for Coalition Alpha. But already, the time gap, the deficit for Turek, 40 seconds in arrears, and it's starting to go down quickly. There's going to be a lot of riders as Turek goes across the line. He takes 4th place for next. Here is Talbot for Saris, no pins. But there's going to be a lot of riders who are almost in that panic zone now.
Oh, definitely. Just looking down. Great ride there by David Talbot of the Saris No Pins team. Finishes safely in 5th place. Won't be too far behind until we get the man from the Hexagon team. Plantureux finishes safely in 6th place. But yeah, looking at the top 20 now, Harvard Gledniers of Movistar is the rider 20th place on the road. He, Hannah, is at 3 minutes and 4 seconds. So a bit of simple maths, looking at the gaps, I think we're only going to see what we saw in the women's race. Roughly half of the field scoring points today as Maiding crosses the line. This now is a Nikki Hug. Again, a top performer on Zwift. Has won rounds of the Zwift Grand Prix and the ZRL in the past, but a solid 8th place for him on the day today as that awful clock continues to count. And we've got a bit of picture-in-picture. Nathan Guerra, not too sure where he is right now at the moment, but I tell you what, Hannah, he is giving it absolutely everything as Stefan Kirkmaier crosses the line.
He certainly is, and this is everything that riders have got left. As soon as they see the orange archway, it's everything you've got left all the way to the finish line. Riders coming across in 1s and 2s. As now we see the Belgian from Aber Synergy, Decock cross the line. There is the Frenchman Havo. Harris is coming up towards the line. This has been, it's been arduous. You can almost feel, just by the pure way in which riders are coming across the line, how much riders have suffered all the way up the Alpe de ZWIFT today. Here is Van Elst. A strong performance all round. Seeing how many riders from Aber Synergy, the all-Belgian squad, have got riders into the top 20. Big scoring points here.
Indeed. Well, Power just about to cross the line. Well, as we see Power cross the line from Movistar, the first home from the Spanish team, let's get a little view of our very own Nathan Guerrero just to see how he's doing. Team Castelli powered by Elite, the only American in the primarily Italian team. Do you know what? We love a bit of Nathan, don't we? But this is the first time I've ever commentated on Nathan. Absolutely digging in. Again, like so many of the riders on a course like this, Ollie Jones just crossing the line just outside of the top 20 for the former Zwift Academy winner. But Nathan Guerra digging in. I'm not too sure how far down he is at the moment, but I tell you what, it's going to be tight for the cutoff. 1 minute and 30 seconds now to go. And we've got 24 riders finished. So I think it's going to be about the same, Hannah, around 40 riders, I think.
It's not going to be as many riders as we might initially have anticipated. Looking at, well, when we first took a look at the races that the riders had here in the Zwift Grand Prix, because now we're starting to see maybe even less than 40 riders here, Matt, because Pim van Diemen is right on the cusp at 4 minutes 33 seconds.
Zoals u heeft kunnen volgen, is Lennart Teugels heel mooi tweede geworden. Die tweede plek kwam natuurlijk omdat hij nog voor die laatste tussensprint ging. Dat hadden we zo afgesproken. Je moet zien dat de overwinning boven is 300 punten. De tweede plaats 280 punten. Dus er zit maar 20 punten verschil op. Terwijl de laatste sprint 150 tegenover 75 punten was. Dus 75 punten verschil. Dus die was veel belangrijker dan die finishpunten. U hebt waarschijnlijk ook al onze andere jongens zien binnenkomen. De laatste dat binnenkwam was Jo Pirot op plek 25. Dat wil zeggen dat we met 5 man in de top 25 zitten. Ik ben benieuwd, maar als dit niet lukt, dan weet ik ook niet wat dat een ploeg nog moet doen. Als je met 5 in de top 25 zit, dan nog die sprint punten meepakt toch wel 3 keer met Lennart, die al in de eerste sprint 5e werd en dan de tweede sprint ook nog punten pakte. We gaan even moeten afwachten. De cut-off is rond. U ziet het, er zijn maar slechts 34 renners binnen de tijd. Dat is echt wel super hard naar boven gereden. Ik denk niet dat het heel lang zal duren vandaag voordat we de punten gaan weten. Eventjes afwachten. Het zou mooi zijn om wraak te nemen op wat ons vorige week allemaal gebeurd is. We wachten in spanning af. Laat ons hopen dat wanneer de uitslag erop komt, dat de AB Synergy mooi op 1 prijkt. Dan hebben we toch mooi ons gram gehaald vandaag. En niet voor niks, want het was afzien, geloof me maar.
And with the caliber of Lennart Turgels, Matt, who has raced an exceptional road racing calendar this year with his pro team of Bingle out on the road and raced all around Europe, all around the world, culminating with the Tour of Turkey only a couple of weeks ago. And you see that Martin Mertens has been able to challenge the Belgian here up the Alpe d'Huez. I think it's exceptional to see, but also seeing the different types of riders who we saw there in the top 20. New names, names who perhaps don't necessarily get their opportunity to perform in various different Grand Prix, but certainly the cream rising to the top. And I have to say, as the countdown was on, especially into the final 5 seconds.
Volgens mij zijn ze met pen en papier aan het uitrekenen. Ik hoop dat ze niet vergeten hebben om op het knopje te duwen. Zodat het sturen afstond. Dat we morgen weer geen mail krijgen dat de tweede wedstrijd ook geannuleerd werd. We weten de spanning in ieder geval wel op te bouwen.
Would have been a little bit cruel. That was the one. It's a good effort. I'll give you 8.5 out of 10 for your impression of the countdown
5
clock.
out of 10, to be honest.
Wow, I'm just a generous bloke.
You're generous.
No, it was just on the cusp there, but a great spectacle today for round 2 of the ZWIFT Grand Prix. Every time we visit this magnificent Alp, the riders always deliver a brand new format for 2 reasons. We had points out on offer, which determined the outcome, and we did see teams going earlier on and securing early points. We saw some riders essentially riding a what we call a positive split, going out from the gun and scoring those points before dropping away. And then all the big hitters that we're used to seeing at the head of affairs, then moving through and a truly natural selection taking place. So hopefully, very shortly, we'll get the points totted up. Our engineers, our producers have got out the abacus, the digital abacus, and are counting the points away. It might actually, while we're getting the points sorted out, if Nathan Guerrera is ready, we might get a little bit of a view from him. So let's see if our producers can patch Nathan in. We know he's topped the Alp. Nathan, that looked absolutely brutal. Just give us your views on how that went for yourself, mate. Didn't quite make the cut, did you, mate?
No, minor error maybe. I don't know if I get a. Yeah, I went real hard at the start to I was like, well, do I try and stay? 'Cause 50 dudes went, right? And I was like, do I stay with this or just ride my own pace? I decided to ride my own pace. I had a mistake at the beginning. I weighed in this morning and I was a kilo lighter than when I ended up in game, actually. So I totally forgot the pre-race protocol, and I lost a kilo in the last week specifically for this race, and then I didn't change it in game. So whoops. No, I don't know if that's I don't know. Do you know the math on that, Matt? Do you know the math? I think you would, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Well, we're going to have to cut away from this. The audio's a little bit bad there, Nathan. So we'll speak to you again. Great effort, mate. We'll see you back next week. But go and cool down and make sure you put your correct weight in next time, buddy. But there we go. I do believe that we have the final points tally. We know who won. Well, there we go. It was indeed. We knew by our very rudimentary mathematics. It did pay off. I'm glad I went to maths at high school back in the day. Aber Synergy have taken the victory. Actually, in the end, Hannah, by a relatively handsome margin, 1,070 points, just ahead of last year's Grand Prix Series winners, Coalition Alpha. Then we have the Toyota Elite e-cycling team, of course, the winner Martin Martins coming from their numbers. So a great battle at the top.
Voilà, u ziet het. We hebben onze gram gehaald. We gaan naar huis met meer dan 1000 punten. Dat heeft veel te maken natuurlijk met Lennart die goed presteerde, maar dat heeft vooral ook veel te maken met onze 5 renners die alle 5 punten hebben gekregen boven. En dat bij vele ploegen niet het geval is geweest. Enigszins jammer dat Coalition dan nog tweede wordt. Dat is de ploeg die vorige week zevende was met het hele verhaal van het cancelen. Voor de rest denk ik dat de top 6 een beetje de standaard teams zijn waar dat we altijd tegen moeten vechten. Dus het ziet er goed uit. We kunnen gerust verder kijken naar wedstrijd 3. Jammer genoeg is de marge nu iets verkleind tegenover als ze anders geweest was. De volgende wedstrijd gaat binnen 2 weken zijn. Dan zijn we weer graag bij u terug. Maar voorlopig zeg ik graag dank u wel voor het kijken. En hopelijk bent u er binnen 14 dagen dan weer opnieuw bij voor de ronde 3 van de ZWIFT Grand Prix. Bye bye, tot dan.
Top of the Alpe Zwift, and so chapeau to the all-Belgian squad of Aber Synergy. It was a real runaway, or should I say ride away, a right steal from that team ahead of Coalition, the defending champions. And for Turgles, who led the team home in terms of the placings in second, chapeau to the rest of the team, because they were incredibly strong. But I have to say, Toyota Elite Racing tonight with Martin Martins and the rest of the team were exceptional too, and I think they've just shown and thrown down the gauntlet for the remainder of these rounds.
Well, we've got the series points coming up, Hannah. Let's have a look at that. Of course, it will be the same. There are the points that are awarded, of course. Last week's round, although we had it, the points were annulled despite a very entertaining race. So Aber Synergy, after 2 races, do lead with 35 points. Coalition Alpha in second, Toyota Elite third, fourth Next Esports, fifth Wahoo Lacol, sixth Movistar, seventh Hexagon, and eighth Saris No Pins. That's the series result for the men. A lot of racing still to come, remember. Got another page to come. Let's have a look at how things are forming at the back end. We've got BL13 powered by Level Velo in 9th, 10th Team Swedish Zwifters, 11th Beast Mode powered by Rose, 12th Restart powered by Alex Coit, 13th Team Castelli powered by Elite, 14th Deepak Elite, 15th Fleur Poncheurs Coalition, and in 16th place Primo Race Without Borders. So, still a lot to play for, but that is the situation in the men's. Moving across to the Zwift Grand Prix Series women's results so far. The leaders, unsurprisingly, after that fine winner today by Sandrine Etienne. Hexagon leading with 35 points. Ionian, last year's winners, in second. Coalition Alpha solid in third. Toyota Elite Cycling in fourth. Fifth, currently Virginia's Blue Ridge 2024. Sixth, Saris Nopins. Seventh, Wahoo Lacol. 8th, Next Esports powered by Jord. Next page.